The book I chose is called The Dutch House by Ann Patchett. She is the 2020 finalist for the Pulitzer Prize in Fiction, rather a finalist for the 2020 Pulitzer. An overview of the book. So in their youth, Danny and Maeve Conroy lived idyllic lives. They had a nanny, a cook, a maid, and lived in the sprawling three-story suburban Philadelphia Van Hobeck mansion. The home was called the Dutch House, not because of the architectural style, but because of the nationality of its previous owners who sold the house to the Conroys, with all of its ornate furnishings. Danny and Maeve's lives changed when their mother mysteriously left home, and their real estate mogul father remarried and soon died as the siblings went to college in New York, alienated from their stepmother, which is a huge part of the story. Now, a little bit about point of view intents. So, the novel's point of view character is Danny Conroy. So, he's talking about the events primarily about his life and that of his older sister, Maeve. But also weaved into this are the lives of his father, stepmom, the nanny, the maid, etc., and of course his wife, Celeste. The point of view is first person omniscient, and I understand that this is a point of view that's not often used. Le Guin even says that it's out of favor or out of style point of view. But essentially, this point of view is characterized by I and my. So the point of view character sees everything. And here are a couple of, I'll just read a couple of examples of this point of view. One bullet point. Everything about her indicated that she had meant to be dead by now. Autopsies, Teddy said, bored out of his mind. He can see into Teddy's mind. Andrea could see how much more sense the house would make had there been no other houses. So he can see what Andrea can see. And Jocelyn remained the most suspicious of our mothers. You can see that Jocelyn is the most suspicious of his mother. Patchett is, in my view anyway, pretty masterful at allowing her polyphonous, that's a word I got from Le Guin, allow her polyphonous characters to speak through her. So she has a strong viewpoint character in Danny, who is, and this really comes through, he's conflicted, he tends to be indifferent, caring, unyielding, and all the while submissive. And of course, much of the plot centers around him and his evolving relationship with his mom, father, and sister. But there's also another element that's involved, and that's his competing professional ambition. Danny wants to follow in his father's footsteps in the real estate business, but he's being encouraged very strongly by his sister to become a doctor, go to medical school, which he does. And the term I used, polyphony, so that's, as you can see the description here, the definition here is many voicedness is how she put it, but the textbook or dictionary definition is in the text. You can read that for yourself, but it's, but I like what Le Guin has to say about this. She talks about the willingness to be the characters, letting what they think and say rise from within them. And I think Patchett does a great job of that. Passive versus active voice, I think the book has about a 50-50 mix of that. And here's a couple of examples, because it tends to be self-deprecation, levity, and then even some off-color language. Because I was 15 and generally an idiot. Another one. I made a mental note to kill Fluffy. That's kind of humorous, tongue in cheek. So you get seriousness and you get this kind of tongue in cheekness, and then of course the off-color language there. The sound in the Dutch house has a narrative that, and I will call this the three C's: casual, conversational, and confessional, which is all coming through Danny. And at times blunt, where he says, and this is after he's in this, I think, in medical school, and they've had to dissect a cadaver. And so he says that I threw up on the sidewalk in Washington Heights along with the junkies and the drunks. I thought that was pretty colorful. But the narrative really reads, the sound reads like the viewpoint character is taking a deep breath, and he is recounting, or rather reconciling, the ebbs and flows of his life. Sort of like he's just sitting back in a chair, really relaxed, telling this story. But as he tells it, you know, you can, some things he questions, and some key moments, it kind of forced the reader to think, just how reliable a narrator he is, which, as I say here, which I think is good because it gives a certain uh, authenticity or reality to the story, because nobody remembers everything, obviously perfectly. So I think the way Ann Patchett weaves that part of it into her book is pretty good. A couple of examples of some common sound devices that she uses: simile, metaphor, and personification, sprinkled throughout. She doesn't overdo anything. She just kind of finds good spots to sprinkle these in, such as, and I like all of these. And she's describing, this is a description of Maeve's hair, which was long and black as 10 horse tails tied together. And this is about the mother-in-law, or rather the stepmother. After her first appearance at the Dutch house, Andrea lingered like a virus. Another one, and this was pretty visual, I thought: two leafless maples shivering in the front yard, some personification there. And the air in the apartment was heavy with the mentholated smell of suffering. Sentence length throughout varies, but I think it basically holds to short to medium length. No, overly long, convoluted, 2 or 3 clauses, 2 clauses probably at the most. Long, compound, complex sentences like this one are rare, and very little fragments, very few fragments. This one, again, at this dissection of a cadaver at medical school, this one fragment I thought was pretty telling. Basically, 2 words. You take the body apart and put it back together. Disassemble, reassemble. She really likes to use repetition, and I think her use of repetition, as I show in this slide, I thought was effective. I won't read all of these, but I'll just give the one from the top, which is a significant part of the story, where she selectively uses this repetition throughout the novel to set mood and advance plot. So here, I think this is Danny. He's in the hospital. His sister is taken ill, but oh no, this is the train station. This first one, where he's wanting to be back in his dorm room at Columbia. He's wanting to be back be on the train. He wants to be out of his coat. And then this last one, it really speaks to his struggles at medical school. I wanted to learn the layout of the periodic table. So she uses, I think, repetition very effectively. She uses these adjectives and adverbs sparingly, and I think very thoughtfully, with some good imagery in them too. Here's some that I liked particularly. The bright torch of anger Maeve had carried for my wife had been extinguished, forgotten. I like the bright torch. Then the snow coming down in glittering sheets in the window behind her. The glittering sheets, I really like that as well. Telling and showing. So the novel takes place over 20 chapters, 337 pages, and it's in three parts. One feature of the novel that was a little bit of a struggle was the fact that it has about 10 time jumps, uh, typically about 2 pages, maybe 2.5 pages, where the narrator is going from past to present and back, and each jump is separated by widgets. It was a little difficult at times to kind of keep up with that, but on the second read, it wasn't quite that difficult. But in the first chapter, I reference here is a foreshadowing, and it kind of gives an indication of what's to come with particularly the relationship between the kids and the stepmom. And this first bullet point gets to that. Though the story will be remembered that Maeve and Andrea were at odds right from the start, that wasn't true, and she remained fair and polite until doing so was no longer possible. And of course, right there, unpleasant things are probably coming in the future. And some other language down here where the story continues to unfold and then kind of ratchet up. And you can see that in this next to the last bullet point. We had made fetish out of our misfortune and fallen in love with it. That's, to me, it's pretty effective. And then more storytelling. And so it came to pass, nearly 30 years after we had at last lived under the same roof, Fluffy, and this was the nanny, came to 116th Street to care for our daughter. Danny had moved to New York. So that's a quick overview of the book. I hope these slides are helpful or in telling what we were supposed to accomplish with the assignment. And as I mentioned here, I chose this book because family sagas, family stories, coming of age stories, those are appealing to me. I've written some short stories, in that genre, and thinking about writing a novel. Actually, I've drafted a novel about family issues, actually on a historical basis. So it's something I'm interested in, and Ann Patchett was a great example to explore that with. Thank you.